Be me. 28. Sociology degree from Sarah Lawrence, working as a diversity consultant for tech startups in Seattle. I tell people I'm basically exposing how systemic sexism creates artificial barriers that prevent women from achieving equal success. Dismantling the myth that men are naturally better at business, one consulting contract at a time. Morning ritual always the same. Grab my coffee in a mug that reads, "The future is female," before reviewing data about gender wage gaps and promotion statistics. Roll my eyes at whatever male CEO is claiming his company's leadership imbalance is about merit rather than bias. Coffee in hand, logo facing out so everyone at the co-working space sees I'm the type who fights for evidence-based equality. Program manager from another startup sees it, nods knowingly, says, "Love the message." I grin, sip like it's fuel for dismantling patriarchal business structures. Launch into my morning analysis loud enough for nearby entrepreneurs to hear. Men succeed more because the system is rigged in their favor. If we had equal opportunities, women would dominate every industry. Behind us, the community board displays articles about female entrepreneurs breaking barriers and challenging male-dominated sectors. The biggest headline reads, "Women outperform men when given equal chances," in bold teal font. I gesture at it with my mug straight in my blazer. See, when you remove systemic advantages, natural female superiority emerges. Program manager laughs, says, "Absolutely, like I just solved gender inequality before 9 a.m. I smile wider. Feels like validation before client meetings begin. My father died 6 months ago, leaving me his construction company in Portland. 35 years building commercial properties, mostly hiring men, mostly traditional blue-collar culture. Always claimed he hired the best workers regardless of gender. But his crew photos showed 90% male faces year after year. I'd planned to sell immediately, use the money to fund my consulting practice. But the lawyer explained complicated estate terms requiring me to run the business for 1 full year before selling, or forfeit everything to charity. Dad's final attempt to teach me something about real work. Probably. In my head, he represented everything wrong with male-dominated industries. Old-school mentality, probably discriminated unconsciously, definitely benefited from networks that excluded women. The company's success was just proof that male-favoring systems reward mediocre men while brilliant women struggle. Later that week, I host my monthly Women in Business meetup. Invited fellow consultants and female entrepreneurs too. Conference room packed with laptops and copies of books about breaking glass ceilings. Conversation flows the way it always does when we gather. Systematic discrimination, networking bias, male privilege masquerading as competence. Friend from venture capital brags about how she finally got partners to acknowledge their funding bias toward male-led startups. I jump in louder than necessary. Exactly. Male success is artificially inflated by centuries of systemic advantages. Level the playing field and we'd see who really deserves leadership roles. Everyone nods enthusiastically. One entrepreneur says, "Most successful men just got lucky with timing and privilege." Then my uncle, visiting from Portland, finally speaks up. He's not academic, not business-focused, just worked alongside Dad for 20 years as site supervisor. Sets down his coffee, says carefully, "Your father succeeded because he outworked everyone else. 16-hour days, 7 days a week for decades. That wasn't privilege, that was sacrifice." The room goes quiet, books closed mid-discussion. I laugh sharp, wave him off. That's exactly the kind of narrative that ignores structural advantages. He doesn't back down, leans forward in his chair, says clearly, "Structure didn't make him skip meals on job sites or sleep in his truck between projects. Work ethic did that." The air grows heavy. My colleagues shift uncomfortably, trade glances across feminist business literature. I roll my eyes, force a dismissive laugh. Survivorship bias. For every man who worked hard and succeeded, dozens of equally hard-working women got nowhere because of discrimination. One member backs me up, says, "Individual effort can't overcome systematic oppression." Conversation bounces back quickly to safer theoretical territory, but my uncle just goes quiet, checking his phone like he's done with all of us. I don't give it another thought. These meetings are about analysis, not anecdotes. 2 weeks later, I reluctantly drive to Portland to assess the business I'm stuck managing. The office sits in an industrial complex, surrounded by equipment yards and concrete trucks. Inside, it's exactly what I expected: masculine energy, sports calendars, coffee-stained blueprints covering every surface. Site supervisor Mike introduces me to the crew. 12 men, 2 women, all looking skeptical about their new boss who's never swung a hammer. "Your dad built this from nothing," Mike explains, showing me project files going back 3 decades. "Started with just him and a pickup truck." I flip through contracts, seeing gradual growth from small residential jobs to major commercial projects. The progression looks impressive, but I remind myself about systemic advantages. "How did he get his first big contracts?" I ask, looking for evidence of male networking privilege. "Lowest bids," Mike says simply. "Worked weekends for half what competitors charged. Almost went bankrupt the first 5 years because he underpriced everything just to build reputation." He pulls out early financial records, showing months where Dad paid workers but took nothing home himself. That evening, I stay late reviewing files. Find detailed logs Dad kept of every project, every expense, every lesson learned. His handwriting gets shakier over the years, but the dedication stays constant. Notes like, "Worked until 3 a.m. fixing foundation error, can't let client down," and "Miss Sarah's recital again, will make it up to her somehow." Sarah. That's me. I flip through more entries, finding years of missed family events documented alongside business milestones. "Elena's graduation today. Johnson project deadline means I can't attend. Sent flowers and card, promised we'd celebrate this weekend." But I remember that weekend. He was called to an emergency job site. The files reveal a pattern I hadn't expected. Every success built on previous sacrifice. Every contract won through lower bids, faster completion, higher quality than competitors. Martinez Construction underbid us by $50,000. Stayed up all night redesigning to match their price without sacrificing quality. Got the job. I realize he wasn't succeeding because the system favored men. He was succeeding because he was willing to sacrifice everything else for business growth. Family time, personal health, social life, all secondary to building something that would last. Next morning, I shadow the crew on an active job site. Massive office complex, tight deadline, everything coordinated with military precision. Workers arrive at 6 a.m., some having driven 2 hours in traffic. Mike explains the schedule. 12-hour days, 6 days a week until completion. That's how we stay competitive. Watching them work, I see why Dad's company succeeded where others failed. While competitors might send skeleton crews to multiple projects, his team commits fully to one job at a time. While others cut corners to increase profit margins, his workers rebuild anything that doesn't meet standards. "Your dad taught us that reputation is everything," explains Carlos, a foreman who's worked here 15 years. "Better to lose money on one job than lose future jobs because of poor quality. He'd rather pay us overtime to do it right than explain to clients why it failed." During lunch break, I talk with Maria, one of the 2 female employees. "How long have you worked here?" I ask, expecting stories about discrimination or workplace challenges. 8 years, she says, hard hat balanced on her knee. "Started as administrative assistant, now I run project scheduling. Your dad promoted me twice, sent me to project management school on company dime." She pauses, looks around the construction site. "Never treated me different because I'm a woman. Just expected the same work ethic as everyone else." I probe deeper, looking for subtle bias. "Did you ever feel like you had to work harder than the men to prove yourself?" She considers this, then shakes her head. "Everyone here works hard. That's the culture your dad built. Gender doesn't matter when deadlines are tight and quality matters more than anything else." That afternoon, Mike shows me the company's financial progression. Steady growth, but at a cost I'm beginning to understand. "Your dad never took a vacation in 35 years. Worked Christmas morning if projects demanded it. Said success wasn't about being smarter than competitors, but about being willing to sacrifice more. The records support his claim. Dad's salary stayed modest even as company revenue grew, because every profit got reinvested in better equipment, worker training, or business expansion. While competitors might cash out early, he kept building, kept sacrificing, kept pushing for the next level of success. Evening comes, and I'm still in the office, surrounded by 3 decades of business records. Find his personal journal mixed with professional files, entries dating back to the company's founding. Day 847 of Martinez construction. 16-hour day again. Elena asked why I missed so many dinners. How do I explain that missing dinners today means she'll have college tuition tomorrow? Another entry years later. Competitor got the Johnson contract because they had better equipment. Spending everything on new excavator. Elena won't understand why we can't afford that European trip she wants, but this investment will pay off in 5 years. He was right. The Johnson contract led to 3 more major projects. I keep reading, seeing pattern after pattern of immediate sacrifice for long-term gain. Elena says I work too much, that successful people should have work-life balance. Maybe she's right, but balance doesn't build companies. Obsession builds companies. Balance maintains them. His words sting because I'd always criticized his absence, his workaholic tendencies, his inability to prioritize family over business. Never understood that his absence was investment, not neglect. Final entry, just weeks before his death. Elena thinks men succeed because society favors us. Maybe that's partly true. But I succeeded because I was willing to give up everything else. Competitors went home at 5 p.m. I worked until midnight. They took weekends off. I worked Saturdays and Sundays. They prioritized personal life. I prioritized building something permanent. He continues. Not saying this is healthy or balanced or right. Just saying it's what success costs me. Elena's generation wants career success and personal fulfillment and work-life balance. Admirable goals. But in my experience, you can have any 2 of those 3, not all 3 simultaneously. I closed the journal, hands trembling slightly. Everything I'd attributed to male privilege suddenly looks different through the lens of actual sacrifice. Dad didn't succeed because society handed him advantages. He succeeded because he was willing to pay prices that most people, male or female, wouldn't accept. The next morning, I call my uncle, the one who challenged me at the meetup. You were right about Dad working harder than everyone else, I admit. But why don't women make the same sacrifices? Why don't we see more female workaholics building companies? He's quiet for a moment, then says thoughtfully, maybe because women are smarter about what matters. Your dad built a successful business, but he missed most of your childhood. Maybe women choose differently because they understand something men often miss. His words hit differently than expected. You mean women might be less successful in business because we prioritize other things? The question feels dangerous, challenging everything I've built my consulting practice on. Maybe, he says carefully. Or maybe success means different things to different people. Your dad defined success as business growth. Your mom defined it as family connection. Neither was wrong, but they couldn't both choose the same priorities. I spend the rest of the week running Dad's company, making decisions about contracts and crew schedules. Each choice reveals trade-offs he faced for 35 years. Accept the project that requires weekend work. Disappoint family but grow business. Hire more workers to reduce individual workload. Decrease profit margins and slow expansion. Every decision demands sacrifice. Every success costs something else. The revelation hits during a late-night planning session, alone in his office, surrounded by blueprints and coffee cups. Men might achieve more traditional business success not because society favors them, but because they're more willing to sacrifice everything else for that specific definition of achievement. Women might achieve less traditional success not because we're discriminated against, but because we're often unwilling to pay the same prices. We want success and balance and fulfillment. Men like Dad wanted success, period, regardless of cost. Neither approach is wrong. But they lead to different outcomes. Sitting in his chair, looking at photos of projects he built through decades of sacrifice, I finally understand what he tried to teach me. Success isn't about privilege or discrimination or systematic advantages. Success is about what you're willing to give up to get what you want. And maybe, just maybe, women are too wise to give up as much as men traditionally have. Maybe our lower achievement rates reflect better priorities, not fewer opportunities. Maybe the future isn't about women becoming more like successful men. Maybe it's about redefining success to include the things women have always valued: connection, balance, fulfillment alongside professional achievement. Some victories aren't worth winning if they cost everything else. Even when those victories look exactly like the success you thought you wanted.